Welcome to the Steve and Jesus show.
Wait a minute, not
But wait a
today.
second, we don't have Jesus here today.
We don't.
We got a very special guest. One of my bosses was able to make some time, clear his schedule, come on our show. Yes, the guy that you see in the commercials, our COO, and he is a sports guru, I must add, Jeff De La Rosa. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Jesus is in a business meeting. He can't make it, so today it's the Steve and Jeff show.
I'll roll with that. You're my boss. I'll roll with that. All right. Well, let's get into to some topics. We'll talk about our first topic here. Um, One of our fans asked us, they want to know who is the best coach of all time and who's the better coach of all time. And it comes down to, is it Phil Jackson or is it Pat Riley? Now, I'll be Jesus here for a minute and I will
Okay.
let you have the floor first, sir. Elaborate on who you think and why.
This one's a tough one because anytime we talk about the greatest of all times, when we talk about the Jordans, we talk about what? The rings, the championships.
The rings, that's right.
And obviously, Phil has him beat in that department, correct?
Correct. Hands down.
But
Oh, there's a but.
and I'm a Knicks fan, so it would be obviously biased of me to say Phil. But when you crunch the numbers, you look at the teams each guy has had to coach, who has gotten the best out of their players is probably Pat Riley. When you talk about those 90s Knicks that he took to the finals, gritty, hard-nosed defensive teams, besides Ewing, who else is a Hall of Famer in any of those Knicks teams?
You got a valid point.
You can argue that, yes, with the Lakers, he had Hall of Famers, just like Phil did. But then he comes to the Knicks, makes them a contender, leaves the Knicks, goes to the Heat, won multiple championships there as a coach and as an executive. I mean, the guy is talented, and he brings the best out of his players, I feel. Whereas Phil is one of the top, probably three best NBA coaches of all time.
Mhm.
But again, you always have to go back to the debate. He had Jordan. He had Kobe. He had Shaq.
Right.
He had Pippen. These are four of the 50 greatest players of all time. All four are Hall of Famers.
I
So,
hear
tell
you.
me.
I hear you. I'm going to rebuttal you, though. I
Oh,
think it's got to be Phil Jackson. And I get where you're coming from. I get your angle. I get the fact that he had all these great players. But I'm sorry. You said best coach. Not most rings or total rings or
right.
GM and coach. The question was best coach of all time. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to say it's Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson won multiple rings with the Bulls, won multiple rings with the Lakers, and yes, with those teams he had multiple Hall of Fame players, but one could also argue that maybe those players, he was part of that system that made those players, and he's great at acquiring people. And I honestly think part of a coach, even though you're not a GM, it's your job to acquire those superstars. And Phil did it with the Lakers when he brought Shaq over, and he set up one of the best, probably the best, it could be argued, but one of the best dynasties in the Bulls, So I get where you're coming from, but I mean, how can
It's a very hard argument. It's a
yeah,
hard argument because both guys are comparable. They both won with Shaq. They've both won, one with Jordan, one with Wade.
right?
They've had comparable teams. I just feel that Pat Riley coaching those 90s Knicks and being as successful like he was, even though they didn't win,
Right.
because obviously they had to get over Jordan. But just that puts Pat Riley just a slightly over the top. Now, we have one of our writers, Anthony Austin. If you
Mm.
go on our page, sportandDebate.com, he actually has an article up on this same topic. And he
Okay.
kind of leans towards my side because we're not comparing
Really?
championships. We're comparing who got the best out of their players, who coached the best. Phil Jackson is probably, you can compare him to like Joe Torre. He had to manage a lot of different personalities,
Mm.
but they were all great players. Pat Riley could take a lesser team and get the best out of them. Can you tell me that Phil Jackson would have probably taken those 90s Knicks to the finals? If you switched, if you put Pat Riley with the Bulls
Right.
and Phil Jackson with the Knicks.
I don't think so because it's a different system that they run, and I really truly feel that both of them built to their specific keys. Because with Pat Riley, I mean, you just said it. He won with the Shaq. He almost won with the Ewing, and he had some really good teams when he was elsewhere. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? I see the argument, but it's just a
Another
tough sell.
argument, another argument that I can make a case on is the fact that players have to cater to Phil Jackson's system,
Hmm.
whereas Pat Riley, he works around the players that he's given. He doesn't have just one system. Okay, if I don't play this system, that's it. I can't win.
Right.
No, he'll cater. If you give him a defensive big man like Ewing, you give him a guard like Wade, you give him. He barely even had any point guards with those teams, with the Miami Heat teams. He had Wade and Shaq.
Right.
With the Knicks, you had, like the Harpers, and we didn't really had a good point guard. He changes up the system. He can go big, he can go small. We play hard-nosed defense. Phil Jackson, and how he's showing it now with the Knicks, if the players don't buy into the triangle, you're not winning. He doesn't adjust. He has a hard time adjusting.
Well,
what the players they have
let's be
around
honest.
him.
Is it really his fault or is it the coach again? You know what I mean? Like now, granted, the Knicks don't have the talent yet. Pat Riley has been good at getting the talent, and I will give you that. Pat Riley is a much better GM at this point. It's still too
That's
early
a
to
different
tell.
argument. That's even a different argument. Who's the better GM or executive?
Yeah, I think it would be Pat Riley, of course. I mean, it would have
Right
to
now,
be
yes.
given
Right now, yes.
given the history and given where we're at. But we can't really compare the two because we haven't really given Phil the chance. So, again, I say, I mean, is it really his fault? Like, I mean, elaborate on that a little.
I mean, no. Right now, we have to wait till Phil Jackson finishes his tenure with the Knicks. 3-4 years down the line, then we evaluate. If the Knicks haven't even been a playoff team or they've gotten bounced in the first round, then you're going to start questioning whether he's even at the level of Pat Riley. You can't even mention him in the same breath. Pat Riley has brought championships, multiple championships to the Heat since taking over as an executive there. He brings stars there. When
Right.
you star, when LeBron, when Bosh and Wade, when somebody gets in a room with Pat Riley, you feel a sense of confidence that he's going to come out of that room with a signed player.
That's
You
true.
don't get that with Phil, especially this offseason. I mean, he struck out on all the guys he wanted. LaMarcus Aldridge, Gasol, all these guys, none of them, some of them ain't even meet with us.
Right.
The Andrew Jordans of the world, so he had to settle for the B and C guys, not saying he didn't do a good job, but we got to wait and see. He got the Aflalo, that might end up being a steal. He got the Lopez, but these are the second tier players.
Right.
Pat Riley gets his men usually when he goes out on a free agent, in the offseason, and he brings them into that room. Whatever he tells them, I don't know what he tells them, but he does a good job.
He does. Now, here's another question. If Phil doesn't do what Pat does, overall legacy, who would you think is the better overall guy?
At the end of the day, it always goes back to rings. And Phil Jackson has, 11 rings?
Yes.
And that's just as a coach. He has 2 more as a player. So at the end of the day, that's what people are going to look at. Who has the most championships?
Right.
And they're going to count Phil's fingers, and they're going to count Pat Riley's, and Phil's going to win out. But when you break it down to the small things, like I said, who attracts free agents, who gets the best out of their players, the number crunchers and the guys that look at other things like that, the statistics, the sabermetricians are going to tell you Pat Riley. The guys that just look at rings, the Bill Russells of the world that just look at the rings, they're going to go for Phil.
Well, hey, but at the end of the day, that's what we have to account for. I mean, look at it this way. In football terms, that's like saying, Peyton Manning's the greatest quarterback. No, he's not. He may have the stats at the end of his career,
right,
but he doesn't have the rings. I would have to say the same thing in this point, The reason why people want to put Joe Montana as the best quarterback of all time is because of the rings. He's got the most. So that's why I lean towards to Phil right now, even though it's young in his career. If he can get just one ring as an executive, I think it's a sweep.
Well, it depends.
I think
If he does it with the Knicks, then he's a god. He's
Yeah,
a
but
basketball genius.
right.
He will be worshipped. They'll put a statue of him outside Madison Square Garden, and yes, that puts him up there.
But
But
would
again,
that
if he
beat? But would that
fails with the
beat? But
Knicks,
would that beat? You know, your boy in Miami. You know, my boy in Miami actually. Would it beat him? Would it beat him overall in the legacy?
if he wins the championship with the Knicks, then yes, that makes him a genius. He did something that nobody has been able to do in the last 40 years, is
Right.
put together a championship team in New York basketball. Yes, I think that would put him over. But if he fails in New York in 4 or 5 years and can't get it done, or at least leave the stepping stone for future championships, then people are going to look at that. Okay, well, he was just a byproduct of his surroundings. He went to teams that had all-star players already established. With the Bulls, he left to go play with Kobe and Shaq. That's what I feel people are going to talk about. That's what's going to be his legacy. He left to go play with stars, just the way LeBron and Bosh did to go play with Wade.
Hmm.
That's what people are going to say. Oh, he had to go leave. He had to leave and play with stars. When he didn't have stars around him, he couldn't get the job done. As where Pat Riley went to the Heat when they weren't all that great. They were a decent team when he went to them, but they were always getting eliminated by the Knicks every year. He went to them and built them from the ground floor up, got them championship after championship. They've been to 5 finals since Pat Riley's been there.
You're right.
And won what? 3 of them?
3. Yeah.
If Bill Jackson can only do 1 with the Knicks in that, in the next 4 or 5 years, he'll be a god.
But and the other thing too is Phil came in with the star. I mean, let's be honest. Phil came. Carmelo Anthony is a star. Now he still needs to find the Robin Hood to him, which who knows how long that's gonna take. And to
or
your
just
point,
a Robin.
yeah, or just a Robin, yeah,
Without
just
the
a,
hood.
yeah, without the hood, exactly. And it's going to be very difficult for him. I just feel like because I mean, teams are. It's not like the old days where you can just go to a team, sell the name, the Knicks. Nobody wants to go there. You're seeing it yourself. Nobody wants to go there. How will Phil be able to do it? How will Phil be able to get that ring so he can prove he is the best
And
at
him
all
him
categories?
signing Carmelo to that mega deal just proves my argument. He comes into the Knicks and says we're stressing team, this and that. We're not gonna pay him if we don't have to. If he decides to go to another team, oh well. Like he stressed that it wasn't that important, or at least that's the feel I got. That if
Right.
Melo left, oh well, I'm gonna build a team, not just concentrate on one player. Then he turns around and gives him a max contract and says, basically telling me, okay, well, I can't do it without a star. I got to get at least the 1 star, and then hopefully I can attract 1 or 2 more stars because I won't be able to do it just with
But
complementary players. I
Well,
can't
Pat's the
adjust as a
same
player.
way, and I love Pat. I love Pat. Like I said, and I'm being honest. I'm a Heat fan. I love the Heat. And I love what he's done with the play. I know I realize the rings, but at the same time, I know he's not at the same level as Phil as a coach, and I've proved my point. It's debatable now, but as an executive, I know he's there, but Pat does the same thing. He got LeBron James. He got Bosh. You know what I mean? So you in this league, can you really win without stars? So I don't think that's going to
Right.
be held against Phil because yes, during the Knicks time when Pat was the coach, he only did have 1 star. Some people would argue 2, but I'm in agreement with you. He only had 1 in Ewing. So, what can Phil do to get that other guy? I don't know if that's going to happen.
Well,
And
well,
that's going
that's
to
what
save
I'm
his
trying to
legacy.
say. Pat would have gone. Pat would have met with Aldridge. He would have met with DeAndre Jordan. He would have met at least with Marc Gasol. And who knows if he lands at least one of those guys.
Right.
Phil couldn't even meet with these guys. Sit down with them. Tell them what they want to hear. They don't want to play power forward. They don't want to play center. Okay, fine. Tell them whatever they want to hear, but get in the room with them at least, and then we take it from there. When Pat Riley took the Miami Heat job, he didn't have Wade. He didn't have Shaq, LeBron, Bosh. He had a fragile Alonzo Mourning.
Hmm.
He had an aging Tim Hardaway. He had decent players, but it wasn't like he had megastars when he took that job.
Yeah.
They were a playoff team every year, and then eventually, boom, he got LeBron, he got the Wades, he got the Boshes of the world. The rest is history. Can Phil do that, though, as a Knick? As a Knick GM or vice president, whatever the heck he is now. Nobody even knows what he is, but he's supposedly the head. Can he do that? Can he bring the stars here? Guys don't even want to meet with us.
Yeah. It's tough. It is
But
tough.
at the end of the day, if you're a guy that looks at rings, again, you're gonna say Phil's legacy trumps Pat Riley's.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy that looks at the overall picture, who convinced guys that who wanted to play, what guys wanted to play with you, who got the best out of their players, is gonna be Pat Riley.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, there was the debate on that. We will come back and we'll talk about some teams and their legacies.
Sport and Debate is more than just a website or a podcast to me. It's a platform for all fans, from the diehard to the casual, to come together and embrace their love and their passion for sports. And I think that's what separates us from the rest. We love that passion, and we're ready to embrace the debate.
All right. You saw my boss on that commercial, and now he's here. He's with us, and he's here to talk another debate with us. Well, let's talk a little bit more basketball. Let's stay in the same realm. Let's talk about the greatest team of all time. Is it the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls, or is it the LA Lakers?
Okay, now is this the argument that Scottie Pippen and Shaq went back and forth about on Twitter?
It is possible. It is possible. So again, since you're coming on my show, I must extend the offer to let you go first, boss. All right?
Okay, now look, if we're talking about the greatest individual team, as in like one team in a season, it would be that Bulls team that won 72 games.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about all-time teams, like the all-time Bulls versus the all-time Lakers, I wouldn't say it's a blowout by 40 or 50 points like Shaq said on Twitter, but I'm going to say it's not even close.
Really?
The LA Lakers.
Really?
Dude, think about it.
No.
Think about it. Okay, let's go down the list of their starting five all-time, correct? At center, I think we're going to both agree that we're going to put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. At power forward, we're going to have probably one of their best centers of all time, Shaq, at power forward.
I don't know about. Okay, all right. That's a little crazy.
Shaq at power forward.
Well, whatever. I'll give that to you. That's fine.
Small forward, we're going to have Elgin Baylor.
All right.
At shooting guard, we're going to have Kobe Bryant. And
Okay.
at point guard, we're going to have Magic Johnson.
Okay.
These are 5 Hall of Famers. The Bulls don't have 5 Hall of Famers. They have at the best 2. If we go, Derrick Rose is going to be their point guard. He can't stay on the court.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be able to stop Magic Johnson, who's about 5 inches taller than him.
Okay.
We have Jordan at shooting guard.
Mm-hmm.
Best player of all time.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna. All right.
Greatest player of all time.
Okay. All right. All right.
Scottie Pippen at small forward.
Mm-hmm.
Our Hall of Famer. One of the best small forwards of all time. 50 greatest players.
Mm-hmm.
Who is their power forward in their center? Horace Grant and Dennis Rodman.
All right.
6'9" each. Which one of those is stopping Shaq down low?
They're not stopping Shaq.
Oh.
Well, which one of those is stopping the combination of a Kerr, the combination of?
Oh, now we're talking about the bench.
Hey, I'm just saying exactly. Well, we got to go deep. We got to go in this. The combination of a Pippen to Jordan. I mean, who's stopping Jordan? Who's stopping? It doesn't matter what you do.
You would probably have to put Kobe.
Jordan?
Kobe is a great defender, by the way. I'm not saying he won't stop Jordan. Jordan will drop 40 or 50 on him. But will it be enough, though? They'll give Jordan his buckets.
Look.
But who's going to stop Shaq? Who's going to stop
There is
Magic?
a reason why the Bulls won so many games and championships. And it starts with one guy. And when he was not there, they still made the playoffs and made a series of runs. They had a team, a legitimate team. All right?
So you're saying the Bulls team, all-time team, will beat the Lakers all-time team?
I think the Bulls can, yes, upset them. And I know I'm in the dark, and I know you probably would agree
You're in the
with
minority.
Jesus. I probably am the minority. And you know what? If Jesus was here, he'd probably want to yell at me right now, too. He'd be calling me some sort of names that I can't even say on this screen. But I am telling you right now, the Chicago Bulls would upset the LA Lakers because of one man and one man only, and that is...
You're forgetting one key component in any sport.
Yes,
it is a team sport.
I understand the team, but then I got guys coming off the bench that'll drop some threes that are good defenders. And hey, let's be honest. For as crazy as the man was, Dennis Rodman was a really good defender. You can give me
No
that.
doubt. No doubt.
Okay? So I'm pretty sure he can put at least a damper on one of those
But he's
guys.
like 6'8",
But
6'9".
the
He's not
fact,
stopping 7
but the
footer.
fact that you're
Shaq.
putting two centers in two different positions kind of bothers me.
You
But
have to.
I'll let it slide. But I still think the Bulls are
And
going
you
to win.
have Will Chamberlain coming out of the bench.
And so,
Will
hey,
Chamberlain's coming off the bench.
I'm
with
just
Robert
saying.
Horry and Derek Fisher and these guys.
I'm just saying, I think the greatest player of all time would find a way to still beat the Lakers. I really
No.
do think so.
I'm sorry, man. He can't do it by himself. He couldn't do it by himself in the 90s when the Bulls were winning championships. He needed Pippen. Pippen needed him. They were the best 1-2 punch
Exactly.
in the NBA for a good 6, 7, 8 years straight.
And they still are,
The
they
only
still would be. That's
combo
why they
that
would beat them.
The only combo that was equal to them in the 90s was Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Okay.
And
Now,
neither of them is a Jordan or a Pippen.
okay. Now here's this. All right.
No
riddle
other
this.
team
How
had
many,
2 Hall of Famers.
how many chips? How
We're
many
talking about a
chips?
team with 5.
How many chips were won with Magic Johnson and Hakeem together?
It wasn't 6.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
But one can argue
Okay.
that they had more competition.
I-
They had to deal with the Celtics teams. They had to deal,
Really?
they had to deal with the 70s
Really?
Knicks
What-
that were
The
winning.
Bulls had to still deal with Orlando when Penny and Shaq were there and Horace were there at one point. They still had to deal with them. They had to deal with the great team at the time.
The only team that Jordan ever had to face that had 2 Hall of Famers was the Jazz with Malone and Stockton. No other team in that era had 2 Hall of Famers. Every team had 1. The Pacers had Reggie Miller. The Knicks
Yes,
had Ewing.
Pacers.
You know,
Just-
nobody had 2. The Magic had Shaq, but he wasn't as seasoned as he was later on in his career.
He was still a monster.
Magic
And he
had to
had
deal.
Penny.
Magic had to deal with Larry Bird and all the greats of the Celtics.
Okay.
You know, he had to come on
One team.
now.
What other team? I'm waiting. I gave you multiple teams that the Bulls had to
Like
go
what?
through. You're giving me the Celtics. Who else?
No, because we're not talking about the night. And you see, now you're trying to switch the
Why
conversation
am
on
I
me.
switching
Now
the
you're making
topic?
it a who's the best team of the 90s and 80s. No. We're talking about the Bulls' all-time team with
Yes.
no real center,
Yes.
unless you want to put
all-time
Luke
team.
Longley as their center, against the Lakers' all-time team. I could give you a couple of teams that'll give that Lakers
So
team
I can
more
get.
work than the
Hey,
Bulls.
I can bring in Rose. All right, I can bring in some. I can't bring him in.
No, Rose is their starting point guard. He's their
Okay,
starting
all
point
right.
guard.
So
But he's
you're
fragile.
saying with the Jordan, with a healthy Jordan, a healthy Rose, a healthy Pippen, they're not keeping this game close.
I can
Between
name
those
you.
three?
I can name you 2 other all-time teams that those Bulls won't even be able to beat either. The Knicks all-time team with
Stop.
Will Clyde Frazier at
Stop.
point,
Stop it. No.
Carmelo, Ewing,
Yeah, Stop.
Bernard King.
Stop it.
Bill
I
Bradley?
can't.
That's a
hurting
better
my
team
ears.
than those Bulls team.
Boss man. I know.
The Spurs.
I know
The
you pay me at
Spurs
the end of the
all-time
day,
team.
but you are wrong, my friend.
Okay.
You are wrong.
The
All right.
Spurs all-time team
No.
with Tim Duncan,
No.
David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Tony
No.
Parker. That team will beat those Bulls teams.
I'm sorry. The Bulls are the greatest because
No.
of one man and the greatest player of all time raises
think
the
you're
level
wrong, buddy.
of
I think you're
everybody.
wrong.
And
I
that
think
is
you're wrong.
Michael Sir Air Jordan.
I think you're wrong. Jordan was the greatest player of all time. Certainly of that era, yes. When
And
we're
of all
talking
time.
about the
You want to
greatest
say all time?
teams. Yeah, I would say he's the greatest of all time.
Okay, all right.
But when we're talking about the greatest team of all time, it wouldn't be the all-time Bulls without a center. You know, with no offense coming from the power forward position, with a fragile point guard at best,
Hey, I have
no
defend-
bench.
I have defenders. And I have some bench, and maybe the bench is not up to par. Maybe that's something that they would play a little bit more longer minutes than the Lakers would. You know, if we played this with all of them at their prime. But I'm
just
sorry,
trying to
my
figure
friend.
out.
The fact that you can have Rose, Jordan, and Pippen on the same court, that's deadly. I'm sorry, that is
I'm just
deadly.
trying to figure out who's going to stop Shaq and Kareem on the other side.
I think yes, that would be a weak flaw. But on the other side of the court, they're going to be taking open jump shots all day if you put them both on the court. They will run them to death.
Well, Rose can't shoot over Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson was 6'9", or
No,
is
yeah, he
6'9".
won't shoot, but he can distribute, can he not? I mean, let's be honest. Rose is really good driving into the center and kicking it out. And
So
you
you're
know
telling
that
me,
would be happening
so you're
to
telling
Michael
me,
all day.
so you're telling me Kobe Bryant, who was going to probably be having the task of sticking Jordan, can't hold his own? We're
Against
talking
Jordan,
about one of the
I
greatest
think
Lakers of all time. We're talking about one of the top 2 or 3
go to
shooting guards of
YouTube,
all time.
go to YouTube and Google times when Michael Jordan was at the end of his age schooling a young Kobe Bryant. It's live. You could go out there. I've seen the video, so I am not concerned about that.
And you're telling me Elgin Baylor is not going to be able to play defense while I'm Scottie Pippen. I'm sorry, man. Jordan and Pippen are a great duo. They're not beating 5 Hall of Famers single-handedly. They're just not doing it, man. Shaq is a Hall of Famer. Kareem is a Hall of Famer. Kobe is a Hall of Famer. Magic is a Hall of Famer. Elgin Baylor. All of their numbers are going to be retired. Bulls are only going to have 2 numbers retired, Pippen and Jordan. 5 trumps 2. And then if we go down to the benches, the Lakers bench is so deep that Steve Kerr and Luke Longley coming off the bench, they're not going to be able to do it, man.
I'm telling you, look, like I said, I know I'm the minority on this. I know this. I know it would be an upset, but I'm taking the upset. I think you're not giving the Bulls that much credit. And I would ask you this. If you think they're going to win, how much would they win by? If they were playing a Game 7 series, what would the series turn out to be?
I don't think it would go 7, but because of Jordan, I think it would be closer than how Shaq wanted to say it was. They're not going to blow the Bulls out by 40 every game. I think it'll go maybe 6, but again, because of Jordan. There's going to be games that he's going to come in there with the flu, and he's just going to take over, and he's going to score 50 points on Kobe. He's going to score 60 points, and he's going to be unstoppable.
Right.
But he won't be able to do that every single game.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to stop. They could do hack a Shaq for a couple games, and they could do all of this stuff. They won't be able to stop the Lakers down low, even if they neutralize Magic, who's one of the greatest distributors of all time. Even if they neutralize Kobe, they won't be able to stop both Shaq and Kareem in the paint. And ultimately, that's going to be their demise. I say the Lakers would win in 6. The average margin of victory would probably be 10 points.
You're crazy. 10 points? No, it wouldn't. It would be much closer to that. If the Bulls lost, they'd lose by like 3 or 4. It'd be going down to the last second. You would be watching every game. At the last minute would drag out for another half an hour. And if the Bulls did lose, they would lose by 3 or by 2, last minute. They would not be losing by 10. This is a much closer game. I'm sorry. I understand your point.
Now,
I get where you're coming from. But let's be honest. I mean, Michael Jordan is that good. You just said it. He will take over games.
Right.
That's all you need. That's all
he's
you
not beating him in
need.
a 7-game series. If we're going to go 7-game series, he's not beating him in a 7-game series. If it's just a 1-game elimination, it can go either way. But ultimately, I still think the Lakers would win by a good 9 or 10 points. Now, who's coaching these teams? Is Phil coaching both? Are we seeing triangle offense on both teams?
I would say that's the question. I don't know.
I don't know. Pat Riley on the Lakers and Phil on the Bulls.
I think it would be Pat Riley for Lakers, and it would be Phil for the Bulls. I mean,
that's another thing. Who played the triangle better? Pippen and Jordan with no real, let's say, okay, you're going to throw Rose, but no real center, or the Lakers with multiple centers to choose from, and Kobe and Magic. But at the end of the day, I can't change my mind. Scottie Pippen is not changing my mind. Besides Pippen and Jordan, I don't think there's anybody else that would tell you that the all-time Bulls team is going to beat the all-time Lakers team.
Right.
So go to sportanddebate.com. We have an article on that up. Go check that out. And we'll let you hit on the comments. Leave your opinion, leave your comments. Let's see at the end of the day what people are thinking. Lakers, all-time Lakers against all-time Bulls.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't convince the people to go for the Lakers. They know better. It's the Bulls. The Bulls are a better team. They have Michael Jordan, his airness, the king of all kings, better than LeBron James, leading that team. All right? So when you go to Sporting Debate,
That's another argument.
Please share with my boss why the Bulls are a better team and why they would upset, and I'm agreeing that they would upset the Lakers. And I will leave it at that, sir.
Leave your comments on sportingdebate.com. Like us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But debate. Leave your comments. We want to hear the people debate.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, for joining us on the show. Thanks to everybody out there. Hopefully, we'll be getting Jesus back next week. But again, as always, thank you for watching the Steven Jesus Show, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you.